Speaker, my opposition to this plan for nuclear power in the Hunter isn't ideological. There is plenty of other countries around the world, like France, that use nuclear power, and that's great for them. My opposition to this proposal for Muswellbrook is around the impact it has on jobs planned for our region. This half-baked plan from those opposite puts all these jobs under threat. The Coalition's policy doesn't create jobs, it rips them out of the Hunter. Over 5,000 jobs will be ripped out of the Hunter for a nuclear power station that hasn't been costed, that hasn't been consulted on, and creates more questions than answers.
Member for the Hunter.
Yeah. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Last week, the Leader of the Opposition stood in Sydney and made an important announcement about my electorate in the Hunter. He stood over 250 kilometres away and told the people in my electorate they would be getting a nuclear power station. He didn't even have the guts to tell it to their face. And the half-baked announcement that he made won't address our energy needs. Speaker, imagine proposing a solution to an issue that doesn't actually resolve the issue until years after it's needed. It seems hard to imagine, but that's exactly what those opposite have done. So let's simplify this. Speaker, 90% of our coal-fired power stations will come to their end of life by 2035. This means we will have to replace the gap that this will leave in our energy supply. Now, we could easily continue to build on the progress that we are already making. We have renewable energies booming and more to come with offshore wind. We have battery technology being used to store the energy we are harvesting. We have super batteries going into sites at Liddell, Araring and Lake Munmora. We have pumped hydro sites established in the Hunter with construction well underway, and we have firming power like the Kurri Kurri gas plant. All bases are covered. Those options provide stability to the grid and firming power when it's needed. We could continue with the current progress and have enough power in the grid come time when most of the coal-fired power stations close in 2035. The transition would be seamless. But the geniuses opposite me have came up with another plan. They've suggested we could spend all of our money on nuclear power. That will take 20+ years to build and won't be ready when our coal-fired power stations reach the end of life. And Speaker, that's only if a miracle can be performed. You see, those opposite, despite not one of them having experience in the nuclear sector, expect that Australia, who has no experience in nuclear energy industry, to build these power stations faster than anyone else in the world ever has. Talk about mishandling energy policies and threatening reliability. Speaker, I may not be a mathematician, but it's clear to see that this just does not add up. I know which opinion sounds to me more like a renewable energy policy, and it's not nuclear. That's a pretty big stuff up from the bloke who wants to be our Prime Minister. But it gets worse, Deputy Speaker. The only thing bigger than this stuff up will be the bill for the project. A project that leaves the lights off for years. We know this not because the Leader of the Opposition told us his half-baked policy announcement didn't include those details, but because the CSIRO has told us that the cost of power from nuclear reactors is up to 8 times more expensive than firmed renewables. Now, Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition said that a nuclear power station at Liddell would support jobs for decades to come. But he ignored one very important fact. We already have big plans for that site, plans that won't require compulsory acquisition. We announced earlier this year the $1 billion solar sunshot plan that will see SunDrive Solar setting up a manufacturing plant on this site, creating over 5,000 jobs in the next decade. And just today it was announced that there will be another 50 jobs in the solar panel recycling centre on site there as well. Speaker, my opposition to this plan for nuclear power in the Hunter isn't ideological. There is plenty of other countries around the world, like France, that use nuclear power, and that's great for them. My opposition to this proposal for Muswellbrook is around the impact it has on jobs planned for our region. This half-baked plan from those opposite puts all these jobs under threat. The Coalition's policy doesn't create jobs, it rips them out of the Hunter. Over 5,000 jobs will be ripped out of the Hunter for a nuclear power station that hasn't been costed, that hasn't been consulted on and creates more questions than answers. The cost of these job losses to a community like Muswellbrook and Singleton would be devastating and felt for decades. Speaker, at the end of the day, this plan is too expensive, it hurts my community, and it is the most expensive form of power out there. The hunter, this is the end of the story, and the hunter deserves better, and so does Australia. We had the member for Fairfax in the hunter in Muswellbrook on Friday. He didn't tell anyone he was coming. He didn't tell any media outlets. He didn't even tell people around the town he was coming. He just snuck on in there after the disgraceful announcement that Peter Dutton made because he didn't have the guts to come to the hunter and do it. We deserve better in the hunter, and Australia deserves better as well. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.